Alright, then with the Overmare production thing, product, I guess I should say. Now for the stable tech, and I can't do it without my emails. Okay, so this is a re-listen for the audiobook of Fallout Equestria. I've listened to Cray's ramblings, but stable tech has better things, right?
Once upon a time, in the magical land of Equestria, there came an era when the ideals of friendship gave way to greed, selfishness, paranoia, and a jealous reaping of dwindling space and natural resources. Lands took up arms against their neighbors. The end of the world occurred much as we had predicted. The world was plunged into an abyss of balefire and dark magic. The details are trivial and pointless. The reasons, as always, purely our own. The world was nearly wiped clean of life. A great cleansing. A magical spark struck by pony hooves quickly raged out of control. Megaspells rained from the skies. Entire lands were swallowed in flames and fell beneath the boiling oceans. Ponykind was almost extinguished, their spirits becoming part of the ambient radiation that blanketed the lands. A quiet darkness fell across the world.
Music, nice.
But it was not, as some had predicted, the end of the world. Instead, the apocalypse was simply the prologue for another bloody chapter in pony history. In the early days, thousands were spared the horrors of the Holocaust by taking refuge in enormous underground shelters known as stables. But when they emerged, they had only the hell of the wastes to greet them.
Really?
All except those in Stable 2. For on that fateful day, when spellfire rained from the sky, the giant steel door of Stable 2 swung closed and never reopened.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I felt like reading that. Or
Prologue
including.
of Pip-Bucks and Cutie Marks.
Ah, okay, hey, a little bit.
If I'm going to tell you about the adventure of my life, explain how I got to this place with these people, and why I did what I'm going to do next, I should probably start by explaining a little bit about Pip-Bucks. What is a Pip-Buck? A Pip-Buck is a device worn on a foreleg just above the hoof, issued to every pony in the stable when they become old enough to start work. A blending of unicorn pony magic and science, your Pip-Buck will keep a constant measure of your health and even help administer healing poultices and other medicine, track and organize everything in your saddle packs, assist in repairs, and keep all manner of notes and maps available at a hoof tap. Plus, it allows you to listen to the stable broadcast whenever you would like, as it can tune into and decrypt just about any radio frequency. And that's not all. The pony's Pip-Buck generates an EFS, that's Eyes Forward Sparkle, that will indicate direction and help gauge whether the ponies or creatures around you are hostile. And perhaps most impressively, a Pip-Buck can magically aid you in a fight for brief periods of time through use of the SATS. Stable Tech Arcane
Just say
Targeting
SATS.
Spell. Oh, and a feature not to be forgotten. It can keep track of the location of tagged objects or people, including the wearers of other Pip-Bucks. So if the pony somehow got lost, don't ask me how you could get lost in the stable, but it does happen on occasion, then any pony who knew the lost pony's tag could find them instantly. It can even be made to glow like a lamp. So yes,
That's any device,
Pip-Bucks
though.
really are a testament to unicorn pony arcane science. And yes, having a Pip-Buck is a big advantage. So with how wonderful and miraculous all that just sounded, it's hard to impress upon ponies who have never lived in the stable just how ordinary, how pedestrian a Pip-Buck was in the eyes of the ponies living in Stable 2, and why I was disappointed to have one as my cutie mark. Every pony in Stable 2 had a Pip-Buck. All that stuff I mentioned, most ponies don't use even half of that. They just use it to tune into the stable broadcast, listening to the sweet, sweet voice of Velvet Remedy in the evenings, or the latest sports
sounds
team
like elderly.
competitions during the day.
That's terrible, I'm sorry.
The stable had 2 soccer leagues, one which allowed SATs and one which prohibited it.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, most ponies paid their Pip-Bucks almost no attention at all. The Overmare issues each pony their own Pip-Buck on the day of their cutie mark party, usually a day or two after you get the mark on your flanks that tells every pony what makes you special, what you're destined to be good at. Once it shows, the Overmare knows what work to assign you. You know your place in the stable.
Yeah.
So no, I was not thrilled. What made me special was something that every pony had, which was a lot like being told I wasn't special at all. Sure, getting a pip bug as my cutie mark could have meant I was destined to become an awesome pip bug repair filly or something, but in reality, it was like getting a cutie mark of a cutie mark. It didn't help that I was the last pony to get a cutie mark. Not surprising in retrospect. Kinda tough to figure out what you're supposed to be good at when what you're supposed to be good at is something you don't get until you found what you're supposed to be good at. So I tried everything. I even tried to invent new things.
Okay.
As a unicorn pony myself, my innate magics allowed me a level of fine manipulation that first ponies don't enjoy. Any pony can hold a key in their teeth and open a lock, but using multiple tools in a very delicate operation, that requires precise levitation. So I decided to learn to pick locks with a bobby pin and a screwdriver, and I was even getting pretty good at it.
Yay.
Unfortunately, it didn't give me my cutie mark. It just got me into trouble. I even, to my humiliation, went through with the CAT, the cutie mark aptitude
Just
test,
say cat.
in hopes it would guide me to what made me special. But no, my CAT was utterly average, with only marginally higher scores in a couple areas, indicating that I might be suited for work as a pip buck technician or a stable loyalty inspector. Two options, I should note, that were even less impressive when you consider that it was generally expected
I would not last 2 seconds in a
either
stable.
technical or administrative work. That is, except the unicorn ponies who are natural artists, like Velvet Remedy. As I said before, our inherent magic allows us the sort of fine manipulation that technical work demands. Likewise, the Overmare and her government were always unicorn ponies. It is the Overmare's unicorn magic, after all, that creates the false sunlight used to grow our underground apple orchard. And while our apples might not look like those beautiful red things in the old books, they are what keep us alive. It was only because they let me try my hooves at both positions that I gained access to a pip buck before receiving my own. Otherwise, I might never have gotten my cutie mark. Oh, my name is Little Pip.
Hey, Little
Go
Pip.
figure. I was given the name because I was the youngest and the smallest, and even my mother had the good sense not to call me Pipsqueak. Not that I don't love her, but when a filly's cutie mark is a glass of hard apple cider... Anyway, funny how names like that turn out sometimes. Pleased to meet you. Here is my story.
Okay. Yeah, well, okay.
Chapter 1. Out of the Stable. Because in Stable 2, no pony ever enters, and no pony ever leaves. Gray.
I remember too much, I'm
The
sorry.
walls of the maintenance stalls were all a very monotonous, dull gray. The particular wall I was staring at had the merit of being a very clean gray. Pip bucks were notoriously hardy and reliable, so being the stable's pip buck technician meant that there were long periods of nothing to do. Being the pip buck technician's apprentice meant that I was assigned all the mundane daily chores while my trainer took extended naps in the back room. Chores like cleaning the walls. This wall needs a mural. I let myself fantasize, picturing the Overmare agreeing and ordering Palette herself to turn our entire stall into one of her brightly colorful masterpieces. Palette was the greatest painter in Stable 2, and like every skilled artist, that made her a stable treasure. Life in Stable 2 inevitably began to eat at your spirit. You were born in the stable, you lived your whole life in the stable, you were going to die there, and the course of your life was largely laid out for you to see by your cutie mark party. So the Overmare insisted that a new song be added to the stable broadcast's repertoire every week, that public areas were brightly painted and adorned with uplifting and motivational murals, that regular parties were planned in the atrium, all in an effort to distract and stave off depression. Reality came crashing back as I stared at the eternally blank gray. Beautifying maintenance areas was a tragically low priority already, and the pip-up technician stall was one of the least trafficked parts of maintenance. I felt my ears droop as I started to realize that I'd be staring at this same gray wall nearly every day for the rest of my life.
I'll go check my phone.
Oh dear, was it really that bad?
Oh, hello, Beth.
And there she was. Velvet Remedy, the gorgeous charcoal-coated unicorn with streaks of color in her white mane, and with a voice as smooth as silk and rich as finest chocolate, was standing in the doorway of my stall. I felt immediately grateful that I had finished the cleaning and simultaneously ashamed that the room was so beneath her. I couldn't believe she was standing there. I'd seen her on the stage above us at late parties. I'd listened to her songs incessantly, recording every new one on my Pip-Up so that I didn't have to wait to hear it again. I'll admit it now, I'd had a crush on Velvet Remedy for years.
Yep.
Little Pip.
She would say, chortling with her friends.
Velvet Remedy's barn door doesn't swing that way.
It took me a couple years to understand what my mother had meant by that, and it took me several seconds to process that Velvet Remedy had just asked me something.
What?
Wonderful response, little Pip. So elegant. I wanted to dig my way through the concrete floor and pull the chunks over the top of me. She smiled sweetly. She smiled at me, and in that amazing voice.
You looked so heartbroken when I came in. Is there anything I can do?
I don't
Velvet
agree with
Remedy
that.
offered to help me.
Maybe if it
I was shocked back to my
animation, I
senses.
would.
Velvet Remedy must have some reason to be down here. Some Pip-Up reason. It wasn't like she would just go wandering around maintenance after all. Looking around, I realized that I was the only pony on duty. My teacher was, as usual, asleep in his office.
It was nothing. How may I be of assistance?
Oh, a little bit.
Velvet Remedy's expression was both compassionate and
That's a
unconvinced.
narrator.
But she lifted a forehoof, raising her Pip-Up to my gaze. A more elegant model than mine, with her initials and cutie mark, a beautiful bird with wings outstretched and a beak opened in song, embellishing it tastefully.
I can see the cutie mark.
I hate to be a bother, but it's begun to chafe. Could you replace the padding? Oh, absolutely.
I was already levitating the special keys used to unlock a Pip-Up from a pony's foreleg. As an apprentice Pip-Up technician, I had all manner of special precision tools in the pockets of my utility body.
I'll have it done right quick.
The Pip-Up came off with a click. Velvet Remedy
That's
chuckled
not
hesitantly, lowering her hoof.
Oh, no, that's alright. Take your time. I'm going to go put some salve on this leg back in my room and rest up for the afternoon.
That's right. Velvet Remedy was performing at the Stable 2 Saloon tomorrow night. I would
Yay!
have to polish it up, make it worthy of
Except
being
for,
worn
oh,
above
by the way,
her
if you
head.
want to avoid
If I
spoilers,
spent all
please
night on it,
leave.
I could give it a full tune-up, have it
Um,
running as smoothly as the day she
but
got it, and still have it back to
Too
her
bad
before
she
the
won't
show.
actually be performing.
Alright, I'll have it back to you by this time tomorrow. You won't be disappointed, I promise.
Yeah.
She smiled at me again, and all the gray of the world couldn't darken my day.
Thank you.
And then she turned to go. I watched as her cutie
Yeah,
mark
but what does this
disappeared
remind
around
me
the
of? It
doorway.
reminds me of something.
Then she was gone.
Tournament Storm was the not of it?
The next day, I was whistling one of Velvet Remedy's songs as I walked down the halls towards her room. Her Pip-Up was hovering along beside me in a field of magical levitation,
Well, I like the whistle too.
freshly padded with the best lining I could find,
I'm a lot like
looking
Lily.
shiny and new. I was tired from a long night of work, but in high spirits. Velvet Remedy was going to be so happy with my work.
Yay!
Turning the corner, I was startled out of my reverie by the mass of ponies gathered outside Velvet Remedy's room. Damn, I was going to have to battle my way through hoof-print seekers and paparazzi. Levitating the Pip-Up higher, I started to shove my way into the crowd.
She's gone.
How could she leave?
The hushed voices and panicked whinnies around me grew alarming.
Why would she abandon us?
Gone? Velvet Remedy was gone?
God?
And then the words that stopped me cold.
I didn't think the stable door could even open.
She was gone outside?
Don't worry, every pony.
Boomed the voice of the overmare from somewhere in the crowd.
I have the tag of each and every pony in the stable. I will personally send out a rescue party. We'll have our velvet back by the end of the day. Worry not.
Bullshit.
I felt like I was drowning in cold, wet cement. My gaze slowly moved up towards the Pip-Up floating above me.
Were you
I
crying for
lowered
a
my
drink?
head, slowly trying to back out of the crowd, curling the floating Pip-Up close.
I thought they
When
were
the
supposed
overmare
to
brought
be
up Velvet
original.
Remedy's tag, it would lead every pony not to Velvet, but to her Pip-Up, sitting in the maintenance. With a thump, I backed into some
It is
pony,
pretty fitting.
startling me enough that the levitation field evaporated in a poof, and the clean and shiny pip-up clattered to the floor. Turning, I found myself eye to eye with the overmare. She didn't speak, her gaze turning to the pip-buck on the ground. Velvet Remedy's initials and cutie mark clearly visible.
What is this?
The overmare spoke slowly, dangerously. All eyes
This
turned to
music,
me.
I
I
love
could
this
feel
child.
every pair of eyes. Nobody spoke. The silence bore down like a lead blanket.
Oh.
My mouth went dry. I couldn't find my voice. I didn't need
You gotta
to.
play the L
I could
girl
feel the wave of
later
loathing.
when she's leaving the stage.
Dozens of Velvet Remedy fan ponies, and I was the pony holding the reason why their idol was lost to them. The overmare's voice was low and surprisingly gentle.
Take it and go to your room, swiftly.
She didn't need to tell me twice. I lay on my bed that evening, poking at Velvet Remedy's pip-up as the radio in my own played yet another reiteration of the tragedy of the day. I couldn't believe it.
Why?
Velvet Remedy was gone. I couldn't understand.
Why am I
How
so
could she leave? Why would she go? The door out of Stable 2 was closed and sealed. Only the overmare knew the secrets to opening it, assuming it could even open. Which, obviously, it could. But why? Nobody really knew what was outside.
Wouldn't a
If
giant
there was
door
anything up
opening
there
like
at
that
all.
make a lot of people
Historical
up?
books suggested the world outside was blasted, lifeless, poisonous.
Like, why would they not know that
was, at
Velvet
least the common
is
and
gone.
logical assumption.
until
But a
morning?
ghost story somebody told me at my first and only slumber
I
party had given me
remember this.
horrible nightmares and still lurked in the
Outside the door,
shadows of
just
my head.
nothing in abyss. Right.
The tale of a pony who somehow got the stable door open and stepped outside, only to find out that there was no outside. Just a great nothingness that whisked the pony away, devouring her soul so that she was nothingness too. Empirically, I knew that wasn't the case, but the mental image still haunted me. The two things I did understand was that Velvet Remedy had gotten me to remove her pip-up so the overmare couldn't track her with it, and that I was screwed. Being the smallest pony in my age, and the last to get my cutie mark, did not facilitate building friendships with my peer pony. Mother honestly didn't help either, nor did waking up screaming at my first slumber party. So I was used to being alone. But I'd never had enemies before. I'd been beneath the notice of the other ponies, but I'd never had one hate me. I really couldn't blame them either, even though it totally wasn't fair. They were upset and hurt and needed a scapegoat. The news hadn't mentioned me by name, just Velvet Remedy's custom-decorated Pip-Buck was found in the possession of a Pip-Buck technician pony. But with a whole two of us, it wasn't hard for every pony to figure out, even without the scene outside her room earlier. The overmare was speaking on the radio.
We are all feeling this loss. But I want to remind every pony that Velvet Remedy chose to do this. She chose to leave her home, to abandon us, her family. She betrayed my trust and she betrayed yours. Just as she betrayed the trust of the pony who she tricked into removing her pip-buck, ensuring we could not find her. I know many of you are angry or hurt, but I urge you to direct that anger where it truly belongs.
I distracted myself with the errant Pip-Buck, taking note of an encrypted file. I had spotted it yesterday, figuring it was probably an unfinished new song. I didn't want to open it then, both out of respect for Velvet Remedy's privacy and a dislike to spoil it, but I guessed it didn't matter anymore. The song would never be played. Opening a pouch from my utility barring, I withdrew an access tool that would allow me to remove the encryption safely and easily. It was a sound file. I played it.
The override code for opening the door to Stable 2 is CMC3BFF.
I shot up in surprise at what I had heard. Swiftly, I turned off the radio and played it again. I didn't recognize the voice. It was female, kind of
This is
sweet,
music.
and had a strange accent that didn't sound like anyone else in the stable. But now I knew how Velvet Remedy felt. I must have sat there for hours, contemplating what I should do. But finally, I made my choice. I was going to go outside after her. I was going to bring her back. I stood there, or nothingness, outside, and there were the 2 guard ponies who blocked my way. I had my saddlebags packed with apples and necessities, even a big book of arcane sciences for something to read. I had 2 canteens around my neck. I was ready to go. But the overmare was making sure there were no follow-up acts. Insistence and glowering looks weren't getting me anywhere. My horn was glowing, but they stood their ground, unimpressed. They weren't going to let me anywhere near the control panel.
Hey, aren't you the filly who let our velvet get lost outside anyway?
When the guards inquired daringly, taking a bullying step forward. The other guard looked away in disgust. I'm not sure if he was disgusted at me, or if he felt like the overmare seemed to about ponies wanting to take it out on me. I was kinda hoping it was the former, considering what I was about to do to them. The metal footlocker above them dropped onto their heads, knocking both out cold. Earth ponies, they never see that levitating something up behind you trick coming. I was in controls, entering the passcode from Velvet Remedy's pip-up when the overmare's voice boomed through nearby speakers.
Stop. I order you to stop this instant.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
Guards, I want every guard pony at Stable 2 door. Stop that filly.
Oh crap. I flew up to the main switch
You
for the
could
door.
do
and
a
prepared
better
to smash the
acting
electrical
than that,
cord.
and that you was
Then,
very
with
bad.
all my strength, I threw the switch. A loud clanging filled the air, followed by a hissing of steam and a great rumble that shook the room. As I watched, the massive bolt that held the door from Stable 2 shut slid back. A huge hinge arm swung down, attaching itself to the door, and with a teeth-hurting squeam, pulled the massive steel door out and away. Randomly, I found myself thinking in my mother's voice.
Stable 2's door doesn't swing that way.
The door to Stable 2 wasn't supposed to swing at all. Even though I threw the switch, I was stunned to see it actually open.
You don't have to do that. Little Pip, isn't it?
The overmare's voice kicked me out of my stupor. I could hear the hooves of galloping guards drawing near. I took a step towards the door.
Don't worry, I'll bring her back. No, you won't. If you ever leave here, you'll never be let back in.
For a moment, the unfairness stung. The overmare was willing to send out a search party to bring Velvet Remedy back. But then, Velvet was special, and I was not. Part of me wanted to turn back right there, crawl back to my room in my dreary but safe life. Drawing myself up, I stepped out the door. With a final hiss and clang, the steel door of Stable 2 closed irrevocably behind me. I don't know what I expected to find just beyond the door, but it certainly wasn't this long, dark hallway that smelled of rotting timbers and sepulchre air. I was no longer in the stable, but I wasn't outside it yet, either. I was in limbo. I turned on my pit-box light and recoiled with a gasp at the skeletons of long-dead ponies which littered the hall. The outside of the stable door was marred, where my ponies had slammed on it until their hooves
I'm gonna
cracked
be
and
creeped out
shattered,
when
trying
Overmatch
to get in.
Studios makes their game.
Moving
And
forward
this is-
quickly, I
and
discovered that the hallway
this
opened
ends up
into
in
an
it.
old room with stairs leading up to a horizontal door with a shattered lock. The entrance from the outside world into Stable 2 had been cleverly disguised as the door to a humble apple cellar. And by disguise, I meant that the person who built it had been building an apple cellar. Taking a deep breath, I trotted up the stairs, swung open the cellar door, and stepped outside.
Oh, is that it? Is that it? You're not even gonna... Was that even the end of chapter 1? Oh no, wait, it's the prologue, I think. No. Damn it, I'm... Good day.